Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. And just get ready, get strapped in. It's going to be a wild week of NBA rumors, of NBA speculation, of NBA player movement. We've got some of those rumors to get into, including Jaylen Brown, who, by the way, Jaylen Brown isn't letting us talk. Jaylen Brown's doing some of the talking, too. That saga continued over the weekend as he went to social media. He took to Twitter X, stumped for himself. Nobody's won more combined regular season and playoff games since I entered the league 10 years ago, reminding the world just how accomplished he is. He demanded Bobby Marks reveal a source after Bobby said analytics guys viewed him as the 7th best player on a team. I cannot believe that from Bobby. What do we make of this? We got Jaylen out here reminding people that he's still Jaylen Dan Brown.
Look, that Bobby Marks report, and it's not, I'm not saying that Bobby Marks is this, but I'm saying the report and his source, that's just dumb. Like, that's just not correct. Like, that's just, if that's the opinion or if that's what the numbers told him, it's just not right. It's not correct. And I think it's far too vague of a statement to make. The 7th best player on a team. On what team? Because he's not the 7th best player on the Boston Celtics. The 2nd best player? Sure, we can talk about that. But, like, what team are you constructing that Jaylen Brown is the 7th best player on it? Like, is this a team, a fairy tale, hypothetical, fantasy land team with, Nikola Jokic, with SGA, with Victor Wembanyama, with Luka Doncic, with LeBron James, with all of these all-stars, with all these kinds of players that are making a supermax, and Jaylen Brown just happens to be, knocked down the totem pole to the 7th best player? Like, even then, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So this is kind of my frustration with a lot of people that live and die by the analytics. A lot of times numbers just don't tell the whole story, because Bobby Marks, he was on Sirius XM, and I listened to the entirety of the conversation, and Bobby Marks did lay out a couple of red flags and reasons why teams might be afraid to just absolutely sell the farm in order to acquire Jaylen Brown. We've heard reports that the Celtics want 4 first-round picks for Jaylen Brown. If you are mortgaging your future to acquire Jaylen Brown, you want to know that all of your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. And Bobby Marks pointed out, look, he's 29 years old going on 30. Like, it's fair to say that his best years, the window of his best years, are shrinking. That, there's just fair concerns to be made about Jaylen Brown, that maybe some of the analytics say that he's kind of a ball hog. He doesn't move the ball around enough. Those are all, I think, fair and important things to point out whenever you are considering trading 4 first-round picks or a superstar in exchange for Jaylen Brown. But at the end of the day, there's not a single world or a single number or a single analytic that can tell me that Jaylen Brown is the 7th best player on any given team in the NBA. That's just stupid. That's just wrong. But also at the same time, put the phone down, Jaylen. Put the phone down, delete Twitter off of your phone, change your password. Just no need to get in on the narrative and get in on the conversation. I understand the frustration. I understand that's annoying to hear something like that, especially when your value to the NBA has never been important than it is right now, if he is in fact on the trading block, which it sounds like he is. But just put your phone away, because if I'm a general manager, the amount that Jaylen Brown talks on social media and on the internet, whether it's responding to this report, whether it's going live and talking about how much fun this past season was for you, that would be a red flag for me. So if I'm in Jaylen Brown's corner, I'm taking his phone away, and I'm saying no need to join in on the conversation any more than you already have.
But the hard part about that is that we've built an entire ecosystem in the world of guys talking about guys and people talking about people, no matter what it is when it comes to athletes. How do I fault an athlete for standing up for themselves when it's the job for many of us, you and I included, to come in and have opinions about that athlete? If you're Jaylen Brown, you just had Bobby Marks, who is a friend. In full disclosure, Bobby Marks is a friend of mine. But you had Bobby Marks go on national radio and say he's the 7th best player on a team, according to an analytics person. Well, he finished 6th in NBA MVP voting. So if I'm Jaylen Brown and I'm sitting around saying, what the hell are you talking about? Like, he just averaged 28-7, 6'9", and 5'1" over the course of this last season. Think about those numbers. We were genuinely talking about a number 1 seeded Boston Celtics team that deserved more respect, and a Jaylen Brown that deserved more respect in the MVP conversation just a couple of months ago. So now all of a sudden, because of the playoff loss, we've gone from that to just ship him off and let's see where he goes. He wouldn't even be the seventh best player on a team. I have a hard time with that discourse. And I don't think Bobby's in a situation where he needs to reveal his sources. He's certainly earned his reputation that he has within the league and within media. He does a great job. But if I'm Jaylen Brown and I have a platform and people are listening to what people are saying about me, I'm using that platform. That's not unique to Jaylen Brown. In fact, how often do we see Stephen A. Smith come out and clap back to what people have had to say about Stephen A. Smith? How often do we see Pat McAfee come out and clap back to what people have had to say about Pat McAfee? I'm not going to ask Jaylen Brown to be different than the very people that make money speaking about Jaylen Brown. So if he wants to defend himself, my God, as we continue to just destroy whatever his body of work is and say he's not good enough, I would do the same thing. As long as I've been doing this professionally, we've been trying to break up Tatum and Brown, and I don't understand it. So if I'm Jaylen Brown and I'm frustrated, yeah, I'm going to use my microphone because I'm tired of everybody else speaking about me and not being able to speak about myself. I don't mind the confidence here. Like if I don't mind somebody stepping up to the microphone and saying, if you have that to say about me, I want to remind you exactly what I've accomplished, because there is absolutely no doubt that what Jaylen Brown has accomplished with the Celtics, including an NBA championship, feels right now like it is being less than by a lot of people.
I hear you 100%. And I am never somebody that's going to say, shut up and dribble, and you're not allowed to join in on the discourse or the conversation, and you're not allowed to have a microphone and go on a podcast or do live streams or whatever it might be. I love the player empowerment movement, and I love that players have found a voice and a platform for themselves. But right now is such a critical time for Jaylen Brown, whether it's staying with the Celtics, whether it's wherever he might go, and we'll get into it, some of the teams that have been rumored to be in on the Jaylen Brown sweepstakes. But, you mentioned Stephen A. Smith, you mentioned Pat McAfee. Those are guys who get paid millions of dollars to have a microphone in front of them, to start a discourse, to join in on the conversation. And there's been so much talked about with Jaylen Brown off the court. We'll go back to the live stream where you talked about this was the most fun playing basketball I've ever had in my life. Really? More fun than the time that you won a championship? This is the most fun that you've ever had after you just gave up a 3-1 lead to the Philadelphia 76ers and you got bounced in the first round of the NBA postseason? How long have we been talking about that? It's been a month plus, and we still bring it up when we talk about Jaylen Brown and, are all things great in Celtics land? What's the relationship like between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and the organization? If I'm the Celtics, if I'm any professional sports organization, that's opening up a conversation and putting our organization under a microscope that I don't want to be under. That's the kind of conversation that I don't want to be at the center of. So this isn't just the first time that we've ever heard Jaylen Brown speak out and, start a conversation that's going to lead shows like ours. This happens a lot kind of with Jaylen Brown. This is kind of a trend that we've been saying with Jaylen Brown over the last couple of months. So if I'm Jaylen Brown's representation, if I am anyone in Jaylen Brown's corner, I'm just going to tell him, look, being exposed to all of the conversation surrounding you is clearly not good for your mentals. Joining in on the conversation is clearly not doing anything for your trade value, because anybody that knows anything about basketball, anybody who has watched just a single Jaylen Brown game, anyone who has followed Jaylen Brown and the Celtics this past season and saw Jaylen Brown carry the Celtics to the postseason, saw Jaylen Brown finish 6th in MVP voting like you just mentioned, has seen how important Jaylen Brown is to that organization this past season and his entire time in Boston, would know that he is far more valuable and way better of a player than the 7th best player on any given team. Give me a break. Which takes me back to analytics don't always tell the entire story. Sometimes we get so obsessed with analytics and with numbers that it takes us to a place that's so far from reality that it begs the question, like, who in the world are you even talking to? Because any number that tells you that is not telling the entirety of the story. So I think that it's just best for Jaylen Brown to just not even comment on it. And if he wants to comment on it, great. And then here we are responding to the discourse. But it's a straight up wrong opinion. Whatever the numbers and the analytics are telling you are wrong.
Which comes back to analytics are a piece of the puzzle, but can never be all of the puzzle. You still need to actually watch the games. Now, that's not the only rumor we're watching, because the rumor mill blowing up. I wake up this morning, I'm thinking Jaylen Brown rules the news cycle, and then I see our own teammate KOC out here with the report that he's hearing the Warriors want a team LeBron and AD together. They'd have to move Jimmy Butler for AD, is how part of that would come together. But they're envisioning trying to put together LeBron, AD, with Steph, with Draymond. What do we think?
That has to be the oldest team ever assembled. Like, when I saw this report from our very own KOC, my first thought was, that commercial with like Jerry Rice and Dan Marino and all of these old retired players where they're like, we think that we could put the pads back on and so they go back and play in games. Like, that's kind of what it feels like the Golden State Warriors are trying to do. I see the vision of, we've only got a couple more years, if not just one more year of all of these guys in their primes. So let's go ahead and just go all in on the old guys that we feel like we can compete. I don't think that's a championship contending team, but it does make sense. It makes sense that LeBron would, that would be an attractive landing spot for LeBron. We know LeBron and AD have a great relationship. I don't think it will work, but I see the gears turning. That if it's not the Lakers, and if I had to put my money on any team that LeBron would go to, my money would go to the Lakers. But if not the Lakers, the Golden State Warriors do make a whole lot of sense. For the Golden State Warriors to say, you know what, F it, we're going all in on guys that are north of 35 years old and expensive, but we feel like still can be productive. And we feel like that's going to be enough for us to at least be interesting in the West. I don't agree with it, but I see it.
This is the living basketball version of the movie Cocoon from the mid-'80s, which is way before your time, Caroline. But the whole premise of the movie Cocoon was a bunch of seniors, they snuck out. They snuck out of the senior citizen home, and they swam in this pool that they didn't know had alien cocoons in it. And all of a sudden, they had like this youthful vigor. They were able to be like, they were acting like they were in their 20s again. That's what they're hoping. You're putting a bunch of unks together and hoping that what you get is the nephew team. I don't know how I feel about this. I know it'll be relevant. I know we'll all pay attention. I know every night will be a story. It'll be a great ticket sales. It'll be great TV ratings because we'll want to see these guys together. Does it make them better? This is the only question that matters in the West, though, is does it make you better than San Antonio, and does it make you better than Oklahoma City? And if the answer is no to that, then what are you doing other than just enjoying a little time where you're relevant? Relevance and greatness are not always the same in sports. We have to keep reminding people of that. This would be in a tremendously relevant team with some great stars that 10 years ago would have been unstoppable. But as it stands right now, over the course of an entire season, plus the grind of the playoffs, you put all of these teams together and you ask, all right, am I going to take the Unks, or am I going to take Wemby in San Antonio, or am I going to take SGA in Oklahoma City? This is a great story. It's not a championship basketball team. But as I continue to look at LeBron's next steps, the more I continue to look at it, the more I just continue to believe wherever he goes is not a championship basketball team next year. So if I could pick any of the destinations for him to go to and it doesn't result in a championship, at least put him with everybody else that's going to be worth. This is must-see TV every single night just to see how much load management there is, how many minutes they actually play. Can AD play more than a game and a half over the course of the entire season to make it worth the conversation? Like, yeah, right. Like, there's nothing here that's bankable, but the box office is beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think the Warriors would be acquiring Anthony Davis because they believe that they're just one AD away from competing. It's like, how can we make this as attractive of a landing spot for LeBron James? Sure, we'll bring in Anthony Davis. Is that good enough for you? Like, that feels like more of a dangling of the carrot for LeBron, much more than it is we're signing up for the efforts of Anthony Davis kind of move, in my opinion.
Yeah, Anthony Davis is just a fun little story on there. I'll remind everybody that 65 games is the MVP threshold. If you look back at the last decade, Anthony Davis has hit the 65 game mark one time in the last decade. So let's not act like AD is somebody that can be relied on. You know who you can rely on? Nikola Jokic. But maybe the Nuggets can't rely on him for the future. Is there drama coming? We'll tell you about it.
I mean, yeah, everyone loves to bring up all the pressure and tell me about the pressure. And I'm used to it. I've lived like this for quite some time now. For me, I just try to do my best to live in the moment. I wouldn't trade what I do for the world. So this is exactly where I want to be. And I just try to take it head on and enjoy every experience. I got a wonderful team and family behind me, and that's all that really matters.
The crowd understanding that Jacksonville needs a jolt of energy. It is tough to run inside the 5-yard line because the line of scrimmage is so tight in this game. You see the linebacker sneaking right up there, ready to make an impact. And then we see, bam, in the backfield, C.J. Wyndham taken down for a big loss, and now the pressure's on for 3rd down.
Clay Fields, one of the physical imposers on this defense, does a great job of getting rid of that wide receiver.
I think this is the steal of the draft. Obviously, I was big on him going at number 1 potentially. But when you look at historically, when we look at the draft, the guys who are the best are the ones that outperform. It's the sons of NBA players. Look at this list here. Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Al Horford. These are all all-stars. And I think Carlos Boozer, being the father of Cam, in a weird way, it makes me like Cam Boozer's prospect even more than what he did at Duke, which was outstanding.
From midfield, 3rd and 5, Delora to throw. Delora all day. Delora shuffles left. Delora launches, corner end zone, caught!
Just stay home.
Touchdown! Seneca McKee, corner of the end zone, and Delora finds him for the touchdown, and now a chance to tie it.
1, 2, 3, 4 guys back there. How are you not fanned out across that area?
Nikola Jokic will consider holding off on signing a contract extension with the Nuggets per Mark Stein. Jokic currently has the ability to enter 2027 free agency with the $62.8 million player option next summer. Denver will be under pressure to upgrade their roster this season. That seems to be an overwhelming theme as fans saw this. Lakers fans saw this report over the weekend, immediately jumped to conclusions. Luka and Jokic teaming up next summer. I don't know, Caroline. This is where I get to be Mr. Logic and poo-poo on everybody's parade. But life is simple to me sometimes. Money. I talked to a couple of different guys that I think are pretty well plugged in yesterday, and I kept asking, is this about Denver or is this about cash? And I got the same answer for both of them. By Jokic waiting a year, which, by the way, he did last year also, he's going to make about $82 million extra dollars. So he waits a year, he makes an extra $82 million. I think people are blowing this up into some sort of Jokic isn't happy, he's going somewhere. And I'm straight out looking at this saying a very loyal player that has given no indication he doesn't want to be in Denver, just wants to make every dollar he can while he's in Denver. This is a nothing burger to me.
Yeah, it's not a total and complete nothing burger to me. But, I mean, you just mentioned it, $82 million that Jokic would have been missing out on had he signed that extension last year. That would be dumb to not wait. So it's a big part of this, I think, is a financial decision. I mean, Jokic just said in April, I want to be a Nugget forever. And if you don't want to believe that, that's fine, because guys say stuff like that all the time and then sign elsewhere. And of course, things can change. I'm not saying that this situation is any different, but to your point, Jokic has never showed any indication that he's unhappy in Denver. In fact, he's shown the exact opposite. What I think this could be, in addition to just a financial play, is his way of getting, I think, the most important thing that you can have in negotiations, and that's leverage. If Jokic doesn't sign that deal, all of the leverage goes on him. The ball is in his court, no pun intended. So I think that this could also be a way for Jokic to say, look, if you don't bolster up this team, if you don't make this roster a little bit juicier to the point that we can contend with the San Antonios and the OKCs of the world, to the point that we can actually get past the Minnesota Timberwolves for once in the postseason, then I'm not going to sign an extension. So I think this is also Jokic's way of flexing the leverage that he does have to tell the Nuggets, I want you guys to go out and sign additional players so we feel like we can be even more of a contender in the West. And if they don't, then maybe Jokic does exercise free agency. I don't think that's totally and completely out of the realm of possibility, but for right now, he's using the leverage that he does have.
To me, this is a lot like Trae Young when Trae Young opted out and everybody thought, oh, man, what do the Wizards do? And then, a minute later, Trae Young signs a massive deal. Jokic is going to get paid such an incredible amount of money. He splits his time during the offseason between his house just outside of Denver and Serbia. Like, do we have any indication that Jokic wants to move somewhere in America while also spending his offseason around his horses in Serbia? I have a hard time making that all make sense. I will say this, though. With or without Jokic, no matter what that conversation is, the Nuggets need to be doing right now everything they can to maximize, because they have a transcendent generational player. They have a once-in-a-lifetime player on their roster. So every year that you are not in the championship discussion is a wasted year, an unnecessarily wasted year. The Nuggets have the ability with Jokic, to me, every single year to look in the mirror and ask the question, can we contend for a title? With the answer being yes. So they do have an obligation, I think, to their fans, to their organization, to Jokic, to everybody that's ever rooted for the Denver Nuggets. You have an obligation to look at it and say the window is right now. If we've learned anything, it's when the window closes, it closes quickly. We thought Giannis was going to win multiple championships, right? Like, we all thought that was just a certainty. A year ago, it was Oklahoma City is about to be dominant for the next 5 years, and we saw where that led. We were pretty convinced about 3 months ago that San Antonio was going to win the first of many championships, and the Knicks got one. So if you are the Nuggets, you owe it to yourselves to have proximity to championships every single year when you have Jokic. That being said, I don't think that they're under any extra pressure because the finances, I should say, work out in his way. Do you believe at this point Denver could still swing for the fences? I think they should. Do you think they will?
I think they definitely should. Will they? Begs the question of what are they willing to give up and who is on their do not touch list. Because if Jamal Murray is on their do not touch list, then no, I don't think that they will. Because I think that in order to get a great player, in order to get, you feel like a 1B to go next to Jokic to, really make this team feel that much more dangerous, you're going to have to give something up for it. So if I ran the Denver Nuggets, if I was Caroline Queen of Denver, I would say anybody not named Jokic is on the trading block. And I'm not saying that means they're going to get traded tomorrow. I'm just saying that nobody outside of Jokic would be off limits. I would be willing to entertain, let's say, Jamal Murray for a Jaylen Brown. Sure, why not? Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland, is he on the trading block? What would Cleveland want in exchange for Donovan Mitchell? Because I would entertain a potential Jamal Murray for Donovan Mitchell kind of move. So again, doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, but it means if I ran that organization, I would be willing to do whatever it takes for all of those reasons that you just said. You have one of the best players in the planet on your team. You have one of the best players in the planet in his prime on your team. Running it back every single year because you're a little bit too concerned about taking that big swing just doesn't really cut it for me.
Yeah, I think they have to be aggressive here because they've already traded away their first-round picks in 27, 29, and 32. So they don't have a lot of opportunities in the draft to address what they need. And you mentioned Jaylen Brown. Yeah, I would love the opportunity to see Jaylen Brown with Jokic just to see what it looks like. Does it solve some financial issues for the Nuggets? No. Do I care about financial issues for the Nuggets? No. When you're in this window, I really don't care about any of that. I care about, can you get the right people in the building to try and build a championship team? You need some financial flexibility. They would lose that if they acquire Jaylen Brown. It doesn't solve that, I should say, if they acquire Jaylen Brown. But I think you've got to look at every single big name, great player. And I want to include sort of what we were just talking about with Jaylen Brown. It's not just the name recognition. It's also how high a level he can play at. You put Jaylen Brown with Jokic, I think that becomes must-watch basketball too. I love that.
Also, keep in mind who the owner of the Denver Nuggets is, who's signing all of these checks. It's a man who has never shied away from coughing up cash if it gets you in contention for a championship. Stan Kroenke. Stan Kroenke is the one who just traded for Myles freaking Garrett, for crying out loud. If we're talking about money, if we're talking about, the Nuggets might not want to get into the second apron. I don't know what Stan Kroenke's finances are or what his intentions are with the Denver Nuggets, but I do know his history, and that is he is never afraid to take a big financial swing.
Yeah, and he expects to be in the proximity of championships every year. I think that, to your point, this is part of why I think Denver will and should be aggressive. Now, again, because the rumor mill is just flying this year, we're getting, or this week I should say, we're getting plenty more. Mark Stein's teammate Jake Fisher reported yesterday the Clippers and Raptors were discussing a Kawhi for Brandon Ingram framework along with picks that would send the Claw back to Toronto. So how are we feeling about this? Toronto and the Clippers discussing a trade that sends Kawhi back to the Raptors. You like this?
I kind of do, sort of. I don't hate it. but I don't necessarily think that this is what makes Toronto an absolute contender. It would be fun. Obviously the sentimental value of it all, Kawhi winning a championship in Toronto, that's when the Kawhi laugh was born. Ho, ho, ho. So that was fun. That would be like a fun little sentimental value of it all. I also think Kawhi and Scotty Barnes could be a fun little pairing. You have Scotty Barnes, who's a young player that might just need a veteran player that's been there before alongside him. But also along with that is I don't really know what Kawhi Leonard is at this point in his NBA career. He averaged north of 20 or 25 points last season. There were nights where Kawhi was amazing. He had a great year this past year, but he was also wildly inconsistent. Why were the Clippers wildly inconsistent? A part of that is because Kawhi was as well. So I just don't know exactly what you can expect from Kawhi Leonard at this point in his career. And if you're the Toronto Raptors and you have a fairly young team around Kawhi, is he the right person to plug in to really unlock the prime of some of the players in their youth?
Hell, we barely watched Kawhi when he was with Toronto winning a championship. He goes back there, he's just going to go and be forgotten on an organization that doesn't get a lot of attention, if we're being honest. Now, that's not the only team looking at Kawhi, though, because The Athletic reported that Masai Ujiri, the new Mavs boss, wants a reunion with Kawhi. We all know they were together in Toronto, a package centered around PJ Washington, Clay, and some picks. I think we do need to remind ourselves that Dallas right now, it's new leadership, it's a new coach trying to build around Cooper Flagg. I would expect Dallas to start to be a little aggressive in trying to at least put pieces around Cooper. So this doesn't surprise me at all.
I'm not surprised that they would want to put the right pieces around Cooper, but you bring up the important part here, and that is, I don't know what a Dusty May Mavericks team might look like. I don't know what Masai Ujiri's vision is for this Dallas team because it's all so new. Dusty May was hired like yesterday, so I don't know like what the vision for this team necessarily is. And, if you were Dallas and you were obviously starting over, everything is a fresh and brand new slate. You bring in Dusty May with a fresh and new perspective coming from the college game. Cooper Flagg coming into year 2. The most important thing for the Dallas Mavericks is putting the right pieces around him. The head coach was a big part of that. Now, the second most important part of that is the pieces and the players that you put around Cooper Flagg. Is Kawhi Leonard, who is coming off of, a NBA scandal with aspiration, is he the right guy to put next to Cooper Flagg when you were starting everything anew?
Yeah, it's hard for me because you have to have a long-term and a short-term plan. And that's the hardest part with this Cooper Flagg moment that we're in, is that you have to have a long-term and a short-term plan for your superstar to start maxing him right away. It's clear that the Mavericks are trying to build that. We just don't know what that's going to look like. We'll see if Kawhi is a part of it. We'll keep you updated. It could break during the show. Who knows? In the meantime, we got to get you caught up on the World Cup with the great Taylor Twellman going to join us next. We'll get his thoughts on just how far USMNT can go.
So now Felix Harper sends the motion, takes the snap, takes the pitch, looks over the middle, 2 receivers in the same spot, and that turns into a huge interception for Jacksonville. Lost opportunity, and what a return, what a pick, and what a change of momentum created by Isaiah Major.
Wow. You talk about bend but don't break.
My biggest concern is, can he be an on-ball playmaker? Yes, we saw it in high school, but we know that there's levels to this. So when you get to Kansas to have 38 turnovers and 38 assists, to me as a one-to-one guy, your sample size isn't good enough. Now, we know his big moments were extremely big. They were extremely loud. My man is an elite level scorer and will fill it up with the best of them. But I want to see if he can grow into a high-level playmaker.
Well, inside the 25 at the 23, Jerome Johnson's going to fire under pressure. He's got a man, and again, touchdown for the Sugar Skulls. Javion Lofton, his second of the night.
I mean, that is the type of drive that you want. Type of drive, just methodically down the field,
Overcoming all those penalties
and all that. And sure enough, the best way to fix it is let's go score a touchdown.
When I think of Christian Pulisic and what he's going through now with this World Cup, can you talk a little bit about that pressure? And you seem like someone who can push a lot of that off, Christian, as well. But does that seep in a little bit?
You know, the cameras are going to be pointing at your direction. You're going to be one of the ones interviewed the most in post-match. At this point now, it's like Christian is Christian, and like he's going to deliver greatness, and we can't expect that to be every single minute like any other player.
So in front of you is the USMNT path to winning the World Cup, and it starts with a matchup against Bosnia. And some are saying the path is doable. Others say it's treacherous. Taylor Twellman simply saying, not so fast, my friend. Give me what you got. Like, I need to know what to expect. I want to be the smartest guy in the bar when I go to watch Wednesday night. What do we think of this matchup against Bosnia?
Who is saying that's not treacherous?
You tell me.
That person's got to be blind. I just listed Spain, France, Argentina. You know, so look at that.
Looks treacherous, yeah.
If the U.S. wins,
it's scary to me.
If the U.S. win the World Cup, it is the greatest accomplishment in the history of sports. Spain, France, Argentina, 3 of the top 4 teams in the world, 3 of the top 4 favorites in the world. So that's why I listed that. When people talk about winning the World Cup, it does show some ignorance, because in order to win the World Cup, you've got to do that. And I'm not saying they can't, I'm not saying it's impossible, but that will be the greatest accomplishment in sports if that happens. And that's why everyone's got to just calm down, relax. You got Bosnia, which is a tough out. They beat Italy in the World Cup playoff. They are a tough out. They'll be better than Australia in defending. They'll be tactically smarter than Paraguay. And while everyone's talking about, can you beat I'm not saying the United States isn't favored. But Fitz, we just very quickly, our American comes through and we're like, well, look at that path. It's very doable. And I'm looking at it going, wait, did we forget about Spain, France, Argentina? Like, let's just beat Bosnia first and let us party until July 6th, when we more than likely play Belgium. But I think Senegal could surprise Belgium. So this is going to be a lot of fun, but there's going to be a lot of anxiety. It's not as easy as everyone makes it think.
Well, if you're only playing Messi and Mbappe on the path to a World Cup final, of course it's not treacherous if you don't have to play Ronaldo.
And Lamine Yamal.
Come on.
And Lamine Yamal.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy there. Kidding. But of course, Christian Pulisic will be the number one topic of conversation going into this round of 32 matchup. What is the latest that you're hearing on his availability? Is he likely to start in this one?
He's 100% playing, and he's 100% going to give them 90 minutes. So there's no issue whatsoever. I think it worked in their favor, even though I thought the risk was too great to play him 20 minutes in that final game against Turkey, but they did. He's obviously training. He's going to be fit. He's going to be chopping at the bit to get his first World Cup goal in this tournament. So make no mistake about it, Pulisic will be the most dangerous player on the field, and he'll be the catalyst for anything going forward.
So as we look at this team, simple question, complicated answer. What now would you consider to be success for USMNT?
Quarterfinal. So it's always been quarterfinal or bust, and I've never changed that, and I won't now after seeing the ring. I don't care if you play Belgium or Senegal. You beat Senegal in a tune-up game, and quite honestly, this Belgian team, as good as they are, yes, they beat you in a friendly in March, but the reality is you've got the home crowd. They're older. They're not completely fit. De Bruyne has been kind of run into the ground a little bit to get them into that spot, into the group stage and all of that. So it's quarterfinal or a bust, excuse me. You've got to use the home crowd to your advantage, and why not make history and win your first 2 knockout stage games in the same World Cup? I'll be shocked if they don't.
Let's say they do that. Let's say USMNT finds themselves in the quarterfinal. What do you think that can do for the level of popularity in the United States for the sport of soccer?
I mean, listen, I've answered this question probably for the last 8 years, right? The moment the United States got the World Cup, the question is, what will this do for the World Cup? And I've answered it the same way every single time. I think everyone is looking at this and saying, well, now the sport starts. And I actually think that's wrong. I think what this World Cup has done, because 45 countries are in the United States and have been here to support their team and have seen the infrastructure that we have, has seen the soccer culture that we have. Obviously, Major League Soccer is going to use this to grow and change their schedule and salary cap and all of that. But it's not as if the last 30 years or so to speak, there's been no soccer in this country. And so I find it a little interesting that everyone will ask me that question. Well, now will people, for the last 10 years, everyone's getting up from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every single weekend to watch the Premier League. And some are then locally supporting their MLS or USL team. So I just think this is another moment to grow the sport. Now, in saying that, if you get to the quarterfinal and you're playing Lamine Yamal, it would not surprise me one iota if 35 million people watch that game. It just won't. Because when you see what the numbers have been for group stage, and then you know it's a World Cup quarterfinal against the reigning European champions, Joe, the SEC college football fan, and Lisa, the ACC college basketball fan that hasn't watched a ton of this, she and he are 100% tuning in. So to answer your question, sure, it becomes a benchmark for where this could be, but it's like everyone's asking me this question as if soccer just showed up here in 2026. And that's where I'm like, it's a little, I just want to clarify, we've been doing this and we're building our history, we're building our culture. It's been here. Messi's shown up. David Beckham showed up when I was playing in 2007. We've built stadiums. We've got billions of dollars of infrastructure. We've now got 500 million plus worth of players in MLS. It's not as if this league has just been here. So it's not a shot at you, Caroline, but you know what I'm trying to say here. Like, this is just the next step to grow the thing. But I understand the question because I do think it will be the most watched game in the history of the U.S. men.
Yeah, I think in fairness, Taylor, like, you're right about everything. I mean, I watched the rise of MLS firsthand in Nashville. I watched that thing grow from the ground up to where it is. It's been electric, but we haven't been in a world where, frankly, Get Up or SportsCenter's leading with MLS highlights. I think that's part of where this conversation comes from, right? Like, what does it take for the consciousness of soccer to last year round and for MLS to get some of the momentum that's come from what we're seeing and for soccer to be a bigger part of the consciousness of casuals everywhere? That's, I think, part of the reason, because I hear you in what you're saying, that it's already existing, but it takes a minute for everybody to suddenly pay attention.
Yeah, but Get Up First Take aren't talking about the Premier League. They're not talking about Champions League. They're not talking about the European Championships. So it's not to me, that's a terrible barometer because, quite frankly, those two shows, with all due respect, it's the NBA and NFL, and with the occasional golf major in there. But if I go to social media, if I talk to the advertising people, soccer's number 2 or 3 in the United States of America because their demographic is 18 to 29. We dominate that demographic. We are all over that demographic. And so that's why it's a real interesting question. When you literally look at the numbers and everything else, hockey's behind soccer. But yet when you go to any news station, it's the top 4 sports. Well, if it is, hockey's not in that conversation. And quite frankly, baseball's almost on the outside looking in too when you talk about soccer. But the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it, in some part because they don't know how to talk about it. And that was my biggest thing of trying to help people. Our biggest issue as soccer people is we're way too exclusive. And if someone wants on the outside, Stephen A. Smith on the outside wants to come in, we've got to be willing to educate him. And in fairness to him, he doesn't know it. He's not following it. But it would behoove him to absolutely talk about it because he's missing an entire demographic of the fans that would tune in to First Take. We have the most diverse sport in the world. It would behoove all of these news stations very quickly to pay attention. You don't need to do an hour, but do 10 minutes every day. Watch the numbers. See who the advertisers are that call you. I get it. The NFL is its own animal. It's its own machine. But everything else, that NBA fan is a huge soccer fan. And a lot of people don't know that. But every Manu Ginobili fan is a massive Argentina fan. And so when you talk to advertisers over the last 10 years, I'll end it with this. Their paradigm, their shift is going to hang on a minute. We got a bigger net, both male and female, from 18 to 29 if we talk the sports. So listen, I love Get Up and First Take in those shows. I watch them. I love it. Everything about it. I love being on there. I can talk other sports. My question is, when should they start? That's not an MLS thing. That's a soccer thing because they don't talk about the sport at all, and they should.
So I'm curious to get your perspective on having such a pulse on the sports world, this soccer world, and especially the United States soccer world. If, let's just say, USMNT went on this absolute miraculous run and found themselves in the World Cup final. I know it's a long shot, but let's just live in that world. What would do better ratings? USMNT versus pick your poison? Or Messi versus Ronaldo? Global superstar versus global superstar? Which would draw more attention in the U.S.?
Oh, in the U.S., it would be U.S. being in the final. Globally, listen, it's a World Cup final. Listen, Messi and Ronaldo would be an earthquake, okay? It would more than likely be the final game they ever play against each other. And we've seen it time and time again in La Liga and in Champions League. And so that's a different barometer. But there's also going to be billions of people watch this final if it was New Zealand versus Belgium. And I say that because it's the global sport. It's the World Cup final. And so I believe Messi, Ronaldo would tip the scale. I do. But if the U.S. is in the final against England, U.S. is in the final against Argentina, I don't know. I really don't know. It's a great question. It's a fun one. I really don't know. I do think Messi and Ronaldo fight because I don't sit on the fence. You guys know me well enough. I would say it would probably tip the scale, but I don't know definitively if I believe in my own answer. I don't know that.
Taylor, all the way back when you and I worked together at ESPN, when I first got there were bosses who were like, hey, start paying attention to soccer. It's about to blow up. And I've heard that now for a decade. This feels different to me. It genuinely does. This feels different to me. From your eyes, does it feel different to you?
It is because the fans are way more educated than they were 10 years ago. Why do I answer it that way? Because they can hold people accountable. They're more interested. They're more intelligent of what they're watching, what they're hearing. There's more, with more knowledge comes more passion, and naturally that spreads the good word. So now when you walk into a random sports bar and you sit at the bar and there's a soccer game on, 10, 15 years ago, I could talk about tactics. I could say anything I wanted about any player. He or she would believe me next to me. Now they know. I just think there's a way different interest level because people know more. Now, some of that is because people like myself I've been in this business for 16 years, having passion about it and talking about it and not talking down to that person, they learn more. They get more interested in you. They either like or dislike what you're saying because it's polarizing, but it is what you do. And so I think the 2010 World Cup showed the world because ESPN treated it as just 8 men and women that love the sport, that know the sport, that played the sport at the high level, talking about it, and they put the red light on. And all of a sudden, people started to get it. And now they watch the Premier League, and now they go to MLS games, and now they're interested in Champions League. And now the women's game is what it is on the club level. And now the Premier League's interested in the women's game. And now they're all of a sudden getting American players to leave America to go play in the Premier League. You follow where I'm going? It's just our world became smaller with social media and the internet. And in large part, we are the only country that can watch any game of the world. Guys, no one knows this that's watching this right now. Living in England, you can't watch every Premier League game. Think of that. There's restrictions. We can watch any game we want anywhere in the world. So the United States access to the top level sport, and then having the ability to go to a 25 to 26 of the soccer specific stadiums that we have in MLS, and then you add in USL, guys, it's rapid fire because it's building blocks on top of one another. When my father played in the NASL, it was one step forward, two steps back because you couldn't gain. Now the community's watching 21 of 26 U.S. World Cup players that started their career in MLS. So now he or she is saying to their parents, that's how we get to where we want to go. Or Rodrigo, DePaul, and Messi. DePaul has 3 assists, 2 assists, whatever the number is. And Messi has, what does he have, 5 goals, 6 goals now? So the point is, oh, you can do that in MLS too. Guys, we're missing. Robert Lewandowski just turned down hundreds of millions of dollars to go to Saudi Arabia to play in MLS, and he's now flying to sign with Chicago Fire. He's going to bring Goretzka from Bayern Munich, former German international. This thing's going. And that goes back to the other point, Fitz, of either you just don't want to believe it or you still think we're in 1985. Either or. But at some point, just open your eyes and listen to the kids. My 12-year-old nephew knows more shit about this sport than I do. It's amazing.
It's one of the things that I've always loved.
The internet.
Yeah, I've always loved this. We gotta get you out of here, but Twellman, I've always appreciated every time we've worked together, all the way back, Sports Nation, every time. You've always been so willing to explain what I don't know about soccer, and is part of why I love what we're doing right now, my friend. I appreciate you so much. You guys can follow him on social media at Taylor Twellman. You know the drill. He'll be with us again throughout the course of this tournament. We're just getting started. Twellman, always appreciate your time and your fiery passion, my friend.
Wednesday night, guys. Here we go.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, I'm in on this. Wednesday night's going to be electric. Make sure you're following Twellman for all the analysis. In the meantime, also electric, the drama of Brandon Aiyuk. We'll get you caught up on it next.
What's the difference in your show and their show?
I'm going to say we have the superior talkers because I'm on the show, and nobody's a better talker than me in all of professional wrestling. That's just a fact. We just feel really special, and we feel very distinct. And I think the biggest reason why, more than anything else, is because when I'm watching All Elite Wrestling, I don't feel like I am watching somebody play a character.
The game will end on this play, a 2-point try. Anthony Garrett sends 2. He's going to run. Now he's going to throw. Back of the end zone. Knocked away at the last moment. And it's Quentin Randolph, the wide receiver, playing D-back to win it for Vegas.
Wow. What a call. This is a call. If he puts a little more on it.
This is an ideal situation because in order to stay on the floor and get touches, you're going to have to defend. And DeBonta said this week that he knows his biggest flaw was his off-ball defense at BYU. And I can't wait to see him prove that he can do that at a high level in the NBA on top of everything else that's made him a #1 pick.
Ice, you mentioned John Wall.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be closer to John Wall than it is Kwame Brown.
Let's hope so for DC.
I hope so.
You know, with the stuff that he's got, if he can just throw the ball over the plate, which he has, figured out the last, 2 months, he's going to be pretty much unhittable. That was at that start that he had against the Yankees that night. He came out just electric, just throwing, heater after heater. Actually just challenging, guys in the strike zone. When you throw the ball that hard and you throwing it over the plate and challenging guys, it's going to be hard for, for guys to pick it up.
So Brandon Aiyuk keeps going to Instagram and social media and YouTube everywhere, and he's let us know that his agent's friends with GM John Lynch, that John Lynch showed up to Aiyuk's house uninvited once, that Aiyuk doesn't like Kyle Shanahan, that Lynch apologized on behalf of Kyle at one point, that it's a respect thing, not a money thing, and that he's not stepping foot on 49ers property until October 19th, which would be when Washington plays there. His sense is, I'm going to be cut and you're going to do it. But here's the problem with that, Caroline. There's actual minutia that matters. Right now, he is on the did not report list for San Francisco. And for anyone that doesn't know what that means, it means he doesn't count. He doesn't count against their salary cap. He doesn't count against their roster. San Francisco is not obligated to do a damn thing for Brandon Aiyuk until he actually shows up for work. If he were to show up, then they'd have to make a decision of if he's going on the active list. Then they'd have to worry about his salary cap numbers. They have to worry about all of it. But right now, San Francisco doesn't have to care about whatever Brandon Aiyuk wants, because until he shows up for work, he doesn't count.
Yeah, his base salary has already been voided for the 2026 season. When he decided to not get the MRI for his knee, then there were a lot of bonuses that were already voided. So the 49ers have zero financial incentive to move on from Brandon Aiyuk. The 49ers can just sit on Brandon Aiyuk's contract, and it's not like they're just writing him blank checks to do nothing. They are not paying him. So the 49ers have zero incentive. They have zero push to trade Brandon Aiyuk. He's not in the building, so it's not like he's, this dark storm cloud that's kind of being a distraction, at least in the building. Probably a distraction outside of the building because of everything that he's posting on social media. But still, at the end of the day, the 49ers are not on the hook for anything as long as Brandon Aiyuk is under contract and as long as he doesn't show up. So Brandon Aiyuk has said this several times that, I'm not going to be in a 49ers uniform. I'm going to be somewhere else. I'm going to be playing somewhere else in 2026. They're just going to keep paying me and I'm going to be somewhere else. I don't think so. Like, I don't believe that he necessarily will be somewhere else next season because they 49ers do not have to. And something that I think is very important for me to understand and for everyone else to understand is in the NFL and in life, but in the NFL, you do not have to do anything that you do not want to do. You do not have to do anything until you are forced to do that. So whether that's extending a player, whether that's giving a player a second contract, whether that's drafting a player, whatever. You don't have to do anything you don't have to do. The 49ers don't have to do anything with Brandon Aiyuk's contract right now. And right now, I think he's kind of pushing himself into a corner where he doesn't seem like an attractive acquisition for anyone in the NFL right now. Because if you're the Commanders with a young quarterback on a rookie deal, if you're the Commanders that feel like, hey, we're just 2 years removed from the NFC Championship game. Last year, our season was derailed by injury. We absolutely feel like we can be a team in contention this season, which is, I think, what the Commanders should think. Do we really want to open the door for a guy who has had some really concerning and questionable behavior off the field over the last 6 months and some change? Because I would not open up my franchise to somebody that's been acting the way that Brandon Aiyuk has been acting.
I think there is this moment too where you have to remember that the 49ers can go after portions of his money. As one reporter mentioned, they can get somewhere between $13 and $18 million. They're going to be able to go back after for him refusing to report to work. Also, the CBA states that a player commits a forfeitable breach of their contract when he willfully fails to report, practice, or play, with the result that the player's ability to fully participate and contribute to the team is substantially undermined. That's exactly what Brandon Aiyuk has done. The stunning part to me here is that he can fire his agent, he can blame the team, he can blame everybody involved. But as I have said repeatedly throughout my entire career in media, read your CBA. Take the time during the offseason to read every page of your collective bargaining agreement to understand where you have power and where you don't. Brandon Aiyuk can turn around all day and say, I don't want to play here. He doesn't really have a choice. Brandon Aiyuk can turn around and say, fine, I just won't come to work. If you choose not to come to work, then what will happen is the team will go back for unpaid portions of your bonus, which they're going to do in this situation, and the team's just going to shelve you on the sideline. The only way that Brandon Aiyuk can actually impact his destiny in this process is by showing up And once he shows up, he can try to be such a distraction that it creates an issue. But even to the conversation of distraction by not being there, this is John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, who've been together with this team since day one and have an absolute together with their working relationship and have a firm footing within the organization. They know how to handle a distraction. This isn't a young team that's never been in a distracted moment. This isn't a young quarterback with a young core and they're all trying to figure out how to mask their way through. No, this isn't even a new issue. So sure, if Aiyuk chooses not to show up, you know what happens? First couple of days of training camp, they'll be asked a question. And about once a week, coach and GM will be asked, what's the latest? And they'll say nothing new to report on it, and they'll move on. And once we get to week one, everybody will forget that Brandon Aiyuk even played for this team. So if he really wants to affect change, what he needs to do is show up in shape, ready to work, capable of passing a physical, and forcing the 49ers' hands. Right now, we have no indication any of that's going to happen. So, and if it does all happen and they do cut him, then Washington has to decide to take a flyer on him. Now, I realize Antonio Brown had far more difficult things on his resume. Teams kept taking a stab at him no matter how many bad things he did. So I understand that if you can play, you get an opportunity. But Caroline, I just don't know that Brandon Aiyuk understands, seemingly from where we sit from the outside looking in, just how difficult he has made this situation and how much he is actually hurting the very thing he wants by going to Instagram instead of actually ... going to work.
And I think the important thing to remember about AB too is it was Tom Brady who was advocating for Antonio Brown. So if you're the Buccaneers and Tom Brady comes to you and says, I can work with this, I can fix this, I got you. And if you're the Bucs, you say, okay, because you're Tom Brady. I don't know if Jayden Daniels necessarily has the skins on the wall at this point in his career to advocate for somebody like Brandon Aiyuk, who has been as disruptive as he's been on social media over the last several months. I love Jayden Daniels. Obviously, you said a helmet behind me. I love Jayden Daniels. He's not Tom Brady. And he has not won the same amount of games and Super Bowls and championships as Tom Brady has won. Okay, not a hot take to say that Jayden Daniels isn't Tom Brady. So I don't know if the Commanders organization would necessarily have the same unadulterated trust in Jayden Daniels as the Buccaneers had in Tom Brady. So if you don't have that, if you're Brandon Aiyuk, what do you have? And I really hope, above all else, if I want to take my football glasses off and just be a human being for a second, I hope he's okay. Because people with really healthy mental health don't talk the way that Brandon Aiyuk has been talking. They don't self-sabotage in the way that it feels like Brandon Aiyuk is kind of self-sabotaging. So Brandon Aiyuk can cut out the people in his circle, firing his agent as much as he wants. But I do hope that genuinely he has people, whether it's his agent, whether it's his family, whether it's his close friends, whether it's people within the 49ers organization or any organization. I genuinely hope that he has people in his corner that can tell him what he is doing is not helping himself, that can guide him down the correct path, that can get him the help that it might seem like he needs. Above all football things, I just hope that he has people and humans in his corner that are looking out for his best interest.
For sure. That's important to know. And I don't know Brandon at all. I haven't covered him in person at all. I don't know who he was before the contract versus who he is now. So I just don't know the answer to your question, and it's an important one, or to your statement, and it's an important one. I also think we have to acknowledge that every NFL team watches the way every NFL player handles every situation. And what you have here is somebody that was paid a ton of money and has now decided just not to come to work. I think it's fool's gold for him to presume that Washington will look at that and say, oh, he won't do the same thing to us if he's unhappy. We'll give him a bunch of money. So I think there's going to be some harsh realities facing Aiyuk moving forward. Hopefully he gets the right people to help him with whatever's going on in life, but also to help him make the correct business decisions. The best business decision we can make coming up next. Superstar guest Andy Costabile going to join us. We'll get her thoughts on all things W.
I mean, yeah, everyone loves to bring up all the pressure and tell me about the pressure. And I'm used to it. I've lived like this for quite some time now. For me, I just try to do my best to live in the moment. I wouldn't trade what I do for the world. So this is exactly where I want to be. And I just try to take it head on and enjoy every experience. I got a wonderful team and family behind me, and that's all that really matters.
The crowd understanding that Jacksonville needs a jolt of energy. It is tough to run inside the 5-yard line because the line of scrimmage is so tight in this game. You see the linebacker sneaking right up there, ready to make an impact. And then we see, bam, in the backfield, C.J. Wyndham taken down for a big loss, and now the pressure's on for a third down.
Clay Fields, one of the physical imposers on this defense, does a great job of getting rid of that wide receiver.
I think this is the steal of the draft. Obviously, I was big on him going at number 1 potentially. But when you look at historically, when we look at the draft, the guys who are the best are the ones that outperform. It's the sons of NBA players. Look at this list here. Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Al Horford. These are all all-stars. And I think Carlos Boozer, being the father of Cam, in a weird way, it makes me like Cam Boozer's prospect even more than what he did at Duke, which was outstanding.
From midfield. 3rd and 5. Delora to throw. Delora all day. Delora shuffles left. Delora launches. Corner end zone. Caught.
Just stay home.
Touchdown. Seneca McKee, corner of the end zone. And Delora finds him for the touchdown, and now a chance to tie it.
1, 2, 3, 4 guys back there. How are you not fanned out across that area?
I'm disappointed with the suspension process by our league and our leaders in the W. This was not a thorough investigation, in my opinion. That Nate Tibbetts on Alyssa Thomas's suspension for the now oft-seen clip of Alyssa and Caitlin Clark. To help us break that down and everything in the W now. Joining now, the great Annie Costabile. We love her. You can check out her terrific work at The Athletic. A lot of conversation about this, and everybody feels like you have to be defending one person or not defending somebody else. Let's just start here. In your mind, was the suspension justified?
Yes, I think it was justified based on the expectations that have been set in this league as far as physicality goes. And obviously, Nate Tibbetts, a great coach in this league, he's going to defend his player. The same goes for Stephanie White. But the reality is that before this season, last season, going back to 2024, physicality has been an issue. In fact, going back for years, physicality has been an issue in this league. But in the last 2 years, it's been something that coaches, executives have attempted to directly address. And as the season has progressed, we've seen that the emphasis put on physicality, addressing physicality, has fallen by the wayside. And so this foul, this suspension, this upgrade to a flagrant 2 was the league retroactively addressing something that should have, quite frankly, been called in the moment.
Do you believe, and I agree with you 100%, it was too far, it was egregious, and we cannot let our game get to a point where players are getting injured because the game is too physical. But do you think that this is also a retroactive acknowledgement that the league has been officiating Caitlin Clark differently than any other player in the W?
Yes, and right, because I think we need to be able to hold two truths at the same time. Yes, we've seen this physical play directed towards Caitlin Clark in moments since she's joined the league. But the other reality is, again, to my earlier point, physicality has been a huge part of the WNBA and something that players have called for a long time to be addressed. I mean, again, going back to last season, we saw Nafisa Collier go down and in the offseason need to get surgery to address an injury sustained in the Minnesota Lynx game against the Phoenix Mercury. And that's something that she, in her exit interviews, called out once again. So this is not something that only concerns Caitlin Clark, but it is something in this moment that 100% was a retroactive acknowledgement. Caitlin Clark's taking really tough hits in games.
I love the way you said that. I want to try and drill down a little bit on it, though, Annie, because as you mentioned, I just keep thinking about coverage. And every time, look, social media is just, it's a bad place right now for W fans and W analysts. Everybody has a lot of opinions. But when this happened, we saw some players come out and some broadcast people come out and defend Alyssa, and that's everybody can see this differently. but it's created this discourse of either Caitlyn isn't being protected enough in the way she's being covered, or we're covering Caitlyn all the wrong way because we're not protecting everybody else going through the same thing. Are we properly covering the way this entire thing is being handled?
I think the WNBA at large has a really huge problem in terms of calling a thing a thing. In this case, it's calling an egregious foul an egregious foul. Anytime you're making contact with somebody's neck, throat area, that is flagrant. That needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed in the moment. And I think the reason that the WNBA and everybody surrounding it, right, whether it's players, whether it's retired players, whether it's journalists, whether it's commentators, whoever it is, there's a really, there's a line that's being towed in terms of wanting to address an issue, but not wanting that addressing of the issue to lead to pushback on players and on themselves, quite frankly, because as you mentioned, covering the WNBA, being in the WNBA is a really toxic place at times. And I think it's catering to this mentality of we can't call out this thing without it leading to all of this pushback in this other lane. And people are having a really, really hard time, I think, merging those two ideas.
The discourse has been crazy. The discourse from WNBA diehards that will watch any game on any given night. The discourse from people who probably, frankly, have never even watched a WNBA game in their lives. It just feels like anything, especially anything that happens with Caitlin Clark, it opens up the floodgates for criticism. Do you think the discourse and the criticism on social media and on sports talk shows is doing the WNBA a disservice?
100% it's doing the WNBA a disservice. And I think when you dive deeper into that, the reason for that, and I know we only have a short amount of time, so this is going to be condensed, but the WNBA is a collection of women, of queer women, of Black women. And these are the individuals who are most attacked in the world. It's easiest to express this vitriol to these groups of people. We don't see this level of vitriol expressed towards men, and quite frankly, like in the same way, never. Or it's just not as common. And I've talked to people who cover other leagues, who are in other leagues, and they themselves are talking about these issues not being ones that they need to grapple with. And so I think that discourse takes away from the greatness of the game, because this game can't just be a game. These moments can't just be tense moments between competitors, because it always blows up into what we're seeing now, which is, again, really ugly discourse and players at the center of it. Like when you think about Alyssa Thomas, right? This was a foul that should have been addressed. The league addressed it, and the world keeps moving. But now Alyssa Thomas is on the receiving end of racist comments on social media, hateful comments on social media, that it gets to a level it just shouldn't ever get to. And for what? For what? In defense of Caitlin Clark? That's not something Caitlin Clark wants to see other people in the league going through. So it's just, it's something that I keep hoping and praying levels off, but I haven't seen that yet.
I struggle sometimes because I'm trying to figure out to do with the constant whataboutism that now comes with covering this league. And it wasn't always this way, but in the last several years, like I'm just thinking about over the weekend, Lisa Leslie says A'ja Wilson is the face of the WNBA. Now you have a legend talking about somebody that on this show we've made clear we believe is on the Mount Rushmore of all-time players already in the WNBA. Lisa Leslie saying this about a great player shouldn't be controversial, but it immediately becomes, well, yet again, it's whether there must be racist, must be nobody wants a white girl to run the league. Like all of these things, it's just, I feel like every time we say anything, we're getting attacked from one side or the other. And I don't know how to stop it. And I worry that at some point, a lot of people will just stop saying anything because it's not worth the fight.
Listen, I don't think we have to worry about people stop saying anything because I think there's enough professionals both playing in this league and covering this league who aren't going anywhere. We now are at the point where we're equipped to handle it in the sense of, I mean, I guess I can only speak for myself, is that a lot of us are getting used to it, right? The hope is that it levels off a little bit and we can post about and write about topics in the WNBA, which, to your point, without those things becoming a what about this or what about that? Because again, it should be about the basketball. It should be about the greatness that we're seeing on the court. And unfortunately, it has not been about that. And in moments like this, it's especially not about a foul being called a foul. And that's what I always come back to, is we should be able to call a thing in the WNBA without the explosion into a whole nother realm of hate and vitriol, racism, sexism, homophobia, and it quickly spirals into those types of discussions, especially online, when it starts with a mere basketball play.
So we'll see those two teams face each other again on July 9th. So if you are in the Phoenix area, tickets for that one can be found on the Game Time app using promo code YSDaily. So, and of course, we saw Caitlin leave that game early. She was reported some back issues. What's the latest on Caitlin's health and availability that you've heard?
Yeah, she missed the Fever's game against the Los Angeles Sparks over the weekend, and the Fever don't play again until Sunday when they face the Aces. And so the Fever will have this entire week off, which means that Caitlin Clark will have this entire week off other than obviously practice. And so there's no exact timetable on her return, but Stephanie White did allude to the fact that this week being an off week for them, being a good thing for her in terms of getting back on the court.
All right, one of the best teams, obviously, this year, Minnesota. They find themselves 15-4. Cheryl Reeves yesterday tied the W record for coaching career wins. Olivia Miles, 21-point effort. They beat Dallas 85-77. What do you think on this squad? Is this squad so far the story of the year?
Yeah, I think the story of the year certainly is one of them, I should say, is the Minnesota Lynx in terms of what they've been able to do after drafting Olivia Miles with Nafisa Collier out. I mean, I don't know how you can't say that that's one of the biggest stories because Nafisa Collier is out. And once again, Cheryl Reeve is defying expectations, which you could go back every single year and find a press conference of hers where she's going in on the fact that the Lynx were doubted coming into the season. I think she really lives on that type of prove people wrong energy. And I think just furthermore, Cheryl's sustainability, right? Her success rate since joining the Lynx, since becoming the Lynx head coach and general manager is unmatched. And so I think the Minnesota Lynx have greatly benefited with Cheryl Reeve at the helm, because even you think about that market and what she's done for that market, for that franchise in terms of giving Minnesota a team that could take root there. You know, Minnesota is an overlooked franchise when it comes to sports. And the sustainability, the success rate, of that franchise has allowed that the WNBA to take root in a market that maybe otherwise would have gone overlooked all these years.
I mean, in Olivia Miles' season, I mean, she now becomes the fastest player to 350 plus points and 100 assists in her rookie season. I mean, Olivia Miles has been absolutely unbelievable. Let's imagine a world when Fee comes back. I mean, what team in the WNBA are you picking over this Minnesota Lynx squad with the addition of Nafisa Collier?
You know, I'm not ready to crown a champion yet. So I will say the New York Liberty are a team that are very far from I think, what the expectation could be for them towards the end of the season. So yes, while the Minnesota Lynx are a scary team without Nafisa Collier, so that only allows us to imagine how scary they're going to be when she returns. The reality is they're going to face hurdles when she comes back as well. And the other thing I'll say to this is Nafisa's on a 1-year contract, right? Her contract's up at the end of the year. I think what's going to be even more interesting to watch is how this season, her return, potentially impacts her future in Minnesota, whether it extends beyond this season because of the synergy that she finds with Olivia Miles.
Yeah, I got it. Just ask you about 4 overtimes. We've gone through this whole thing. We haven't even talked about the epic. I mean, 4 overtimes. Mystics take down the Fire, 124, 123. I don't know. There's just something wild. I got to be honest, Annie. I wanted 5. I wanted 5 overtimes just to give us a historic record. Come on, just give me that.
Who doesn't want more basketball? I think we were all rooting for more basketball in that moment.
Electric, though. Like we've gotten to this where we get a 4 overtime thriller. The social media was a buzz for it. What'd you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think these are 2 young squads, and when I see a game like that, I see it as an indication of what the future holds for both of these franchises, and 2 franchises that could one day be at the top of the WNBA's leaderboards. I mean, certainly the Washington Mystics, I think what Sydney Johnson is building over there with that young talent is something to behold, and is really kind of a glimpse, again, of a future behemoth in the WNBA.
Well, as always, it's great stuff. Go ahead, Caroline. I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, all good. I mean, watching this game was so fun because it's such a young Mystics team. I think their average age is like 20. And then a Portland Fire team that's clearly, an expansion team. And we've talked so much over the last couple of years about Minnesota, New York, all rightfully so. Vegas, Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark. Like, all of them deserve the amount of conversation that we've been having about them. But are we seeing the door open for teams like the Mystics, like the Portland Fire, like the Dallas Wings, these young teams that are now kind of making splashes in the WNBA?
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting when you're in a moment with a league, right? And for me now, covering the league at large, something that's really fascinating me is taking a look at where the shift's going to happen, right? So the New York Liberty, for example, are anchored by MVPs who are closer to the end of their career than they are to the beginning. And so when is that shift going to happen where we're going to see the Sonia Citrons, the Flau'jae Johnsons, the Angel Reeses at the helm of the Caitlin Clarks, of course, but the Fever are already a championship contender. Some will say the Dream are as well. But when are we going to see these young stars truly at the helm of the franchises at the top of the leaderboard? And also, historically, how is that going to shift what's historically been the norm in terms of what teams are at the top of the leaderboard, or at least at the top of the leaderboard in recent years, right? So I think that's what's kind of exciting to imagine is how this is going to shift the landscape of the league when it comes to who's really contending for titles in the next kind of chapter of the league.
You guys can read her on The Athletic. Check her out, of course, on social media at Annie Costabile. Annie, always appreciate your great work and your insight. Thanks for the deep, meaningful conversation on this. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
It's great stuff from Annie, as always. She does a great job on The Athletic. Be sure to check it out. Coming up, just when you thought Jake Paul couldn't get any weirder, he did.
So now Felix Harper sends the motion, takes the snap, takes the pitch, looks over the middle, 2 receivers in the same spot, and that turns into a huge interception for Jacksonville. Lost opportunity, and what a return, what a pick, and what a change of momentum created by Isaiah Major.
Wow. You talk about bend but don't break.
My biggest concern is, can he be an on-ball playmaker? Yes, we saw it in high school, but we know that there's levels to this. So when you get to Kansas to have 38 turnovers and 38 assists, to me as a one-to-one guy, your sample size isn't good enough. Now, we know his big moments were extremely big. They were extremely loud. My man is an elite level scorer and will fill it up with the best of them. But I want to see if he can grow into a high-level playmaker.
Well, inside the 25 at the 23, Jerome Johnson's going to fire under pressure. He's got a man, and again, touchdown for the Sugar Skulls. Javion Lofton, his second of the night.
I mean, that is the type of drive that you want. Type of drive, just methodically down the field,
Overcoming all those penalties
and all that. And sure enough, you know, the best way to fix it is let's go score a touchdown.
When I think of Christian Pulisic and what he's going through now with this World Cup, can you talk a little bit about that pressure? And you seem like someone who can push a lot of that off, Christian, as well. But does that seep in a little bit?
You know, the cameras are going to be pointing at your direction. You're going to be one of the ones interviewed the most in post-match. At this point now, it's like Christian is Christian, and like he's going to deliver greatness, and we can't expect that to be every single minute like any other player.
Jake Paul wants to walk on at Stanford and eventually play in the NFL. Here's the quote. I was originally thinking I'll just go straight to the Cleveland Browns or Dallas Cowboys. I want to play slot receiver, and so I think to get that experience in college first would be good. The number of things here, like Cleveland or Dallas, Jake Paul has just decided two very arbitrary, random franchises that right now are playing very different types of football. But he's just going to walk right in and immediately play in the NFL. And to everyone that doubts him, he says, oh, you didn't think I could be a boxer? Look at where we are. I'm not even figuring out how the hell he gets into Stanford. But apparently, Jake Paul is going to be a college football player. How are we feeling about that?
I think we need to bringing our friends back down to earth. Maybe we're not doing enough of that. Maybe we're not giving our friends enough doses of reality. Because for Jake Paul to be like, oh, well, I was going to go to the Cowboys, but I thought I'd just go to Stanford instead. What? I have a million questions. Why Stanford? Of all places, why Stanford? I mean, if Jake Paul wanted the clicks, go play for Deion Sanders. Like, why not Alabama? Well, was Texas full? Like, okay, Stanford, sure. Why there? I don't know. Can you imagine Jake Paul having a conversation with Andrew Luck? Can you imagine Jake Paul having a conversation at like a Stanford party where everyone is like coding in the corner? Like, what is Jake Paul going to do? How is Jake Paul going to fit in on this team? Like, what? All of this. I thought when I first saw this, I thought that was an Onion article. I thought it was just like an AI slop. Let's randomly put a bunch of words together and Mad Lib something and see if we can get some clicks. You mean to tell me that this is real? Can you imagine this college football drama? Can you imagine if this is actually allowed? Can you imagine that we've gotten to a point in college football that I actually don't know if this is allowed or not? Like, I don't know if there is a world where Jake Paul actually can enroll at Stanford and start playing college football. And maybe this is more of an indictment on college football than it is on Jake Paul. But still, I have so many questions, Fitzy, and no answers.
According to Jake Paul, not everybody else, Jake Paul stated in an interview that he had a 2.3 GPA during high school before dropping out at the age of 17. He never took the ACT and he never took the SAT. How the hell you get into Stanford, buddy? Like number one, how are you? You didn't
with help and prayer.
You didn't pick like Nashville Auto Diesel College. You didn't pick some random school. You picked Stanford, which last time I checked has difficult admittance policies. Like, if Stanford let anybody in, they probably have a better football team every year. So I'm like, how are you getting into Stanford is question number one. Question number two is you dropped out in high school. You've just decided that you are the athlete that is going to immediately walk in and play slot receiver. So all these guys that have been working their whole lives at it, you're going to be better then. You're just going to walk on. You're going to find success, and then you're going to go straight to the NFL. Look, you got to have wild confidence in yourself to be the 1% of the 1%. I appreciate that. While I'll never know what it means to be as popular, as rich, or as famous as Jake Paul, I certainly have been lucky in my life to have a couple of dream jobs, one in music, one in media. And look, you got to bet on yourself. You got to believe in yourself. I love all of this. This is great motivational speaker stuff. But like, Jake, I'm starting to wonder if you got hit one time too many. You don't even know if you can really take a tackle. How do you, like, if you walk out on the field in pads and let anybody that plays at the NFL level just hammer you cutting over the middle? You want to be a slot receiver? You don't even want to be the guy that's just running on the outside. You want to run over the middle and let an NFL safety with a full head of steam come across and hit you? Like, you think getting hit in the face is hard. So is this, brother. Like, I don't understand the logic that gets me to, hey, I'm a social media influencer turned actor, whatever, turned entertainer, turned boxer, that's now just going to walk in and become one of the best of the best. Jake Paul has lost concept here of the fact that you can, in boxing, you can go out and you can buy yourself a match. You can go out and you can buy yourself a platform. You can put on your own matches until people pay attention to it. You can use social media. You can do all of these things. Now, ask yourself, how many kids play high school football? How many of those kids then play college football? And how many of those kids then get the opportunity to be grown-ass men that play professional football at the highest level? I'm lucky that I get to spend time calling games at the IFL, the Indoor Football League, which makes no bones about the fact that it's a developmental league trying to help people grow back to their dreams of playing at even higher levels of football. I walk around and I watch what these guys give to their bodies, and I watch how hard they work for the opportunity to take a hit on carpet on a hockey rink indoors just to get to play football. And you think that you're going to be better than all of them day one. And you think you're going to be better than all of them to get that opportunity. You think not only are you going to be able to come in late, but you're going to be able to just take that opportunity from the thousands of players that have worked their whole lives to do it. I'm not buying it. I hope you get the opportunity to get on a field, but mostly so you can get your ass kicked. And the problem is we're also going to watch it. We're going to watch the spectacle of it. We're going to say, look, how cool is that? These are the moments that drive me crazy. It drives me crazy to think that you are so entitled that you've just decided you will find your way to Stanford with the 2.3 GPA, walk on, play football, and then get yourself to the NBA. Man, if there's anybody in the world that needs to get on the football field and get their attitude adjusted, it's him.
You say entitlement, and that's true, but I think it goes even further. This is delusion. And this is just proof that money and power and influence and clicks on social media and views on YouTube can feed into your delusion so heavily that you think that you can go from the couch to the Cowboys? What? And I know he's been training in boxing, and I know he's been in the weight room, whatever. But to your point, boxing is much different than playing in the National Football League. But above all of this, I don't know why I'm so hung up on this aspect of it, of all of this that feels wild and wacky and weird and crazy. I just keep going back to, you have been able to buy whatever you want, and you have been able to live in your head and your delusion so much so that you could just drum up any kind of, fantasy land that you could possibly think of, and you come up with Stanford? Why Stanford? Stanford won 4 games last year. Fitzy, you are somebody that we have covered college football together for a very long time. You have covered college football for a very, very long time. You are an encyclopedia of college football knowledge. I say this not to put you on the spot, but just to prove to everyone how irrelevant Stanford football is outside of Andrew Luck. Do you know who Stanford's quarterback was last year?
Oh, God, no. No. Off the top of my head,
of course
I'd have to look it up.
Because who the heck has ever heard of Ben Gulbranson? That is real. That is who Stanford's quarterback was. And I had to Google it. I had no idea who this man was. He's like 25, 26 years old. Never heard of him in my life. So I just keep going back to Jake Paul. You have millions of dollars, millions of followers, millions of subscribers. You have been able to do whatever the heck you please for years. So why Stanford? No disrespect to Stanford, but why Stanford?
I mean, you got to feel like Stanford's sitting here saying, did we just catch a Jake Paul stray for no reason? Like, Stanford said, whoa.
Yeah.
Keep my school out your mouth. Like, that's such the point to your, I think you said delusion earlier. And maybe the Stanford element of it is the delusional, like the real tipping point, the real indicator that we have delusion going on. Because frankly, as any kid that's watching this, that watches this clip, or that's watching on YouTube, that watches any of our content anywhere knows, when you're trying to get into colleges, it's not an easy path. Stanford's not an easy school to get. Like, if you're sitting around and you have a 2.3 GPA and you drop out, and then you turn around to your mom and dad a year later and say, you know what, I really want to go back to college. I'm going to get my GED, and I'm going to go back to college. And your mom and dad say, oh, that's awesome, little Timmy. Where do you want to go? If your answer is Stanford, your parents probably need to sit down and say, well, let's have a conversation about what's real and what's not an expectation. Like, this is a little bit the equivalent of coming in and saying, you know what, I'm just going to go to Harvard, and I'm going to walk on, and I'm going to play football. Sadly, I think he'd have a better chance of making the football team at Harvard, even if he has a lesser chance of making the school. The fact that he picked Stanford, of all the places, didn't pick San Diego State, might be a lot easier to get into San Diego State than it is to Stanford, and then assumes that he's going to walk onto it, Caroline. It speaks to the fact that nobody is in his corner saying, hey, let's put some thought behind this. He got what he wanted out of this. He got recognition. He got clicks. He got more attention. He's not going to get football opportunity out of it, but he's made everybody talk. And maybe that's what we need to remember, that the greatest gift he has is that he makes everybody talk.
I also think that that college football doesn't want this. The NFL doesn't want this. And college football is already under heat and under the microscope for being deeply unserious with the way that they have gone about the way that they have been working over the last several years in the NIL era of, look, it just kind of feels like anything is allowed. We are living in a lawless world of college football. You want to commit somewhere, collect a couple $1 million, then enter the transfer portal and leave, even if you haven't played a single snap for that school. Yeah, sure, that's totally fine. You know, hey, if you're gonna gamble on your own team, which is the biggest no-no of all time, then there's not really much that the NCAA can do about it, because if you just take it to a local court, they will trump the NCAA and they'll say, yeah, no, it's fine. Like, I think college football would be shaken in their boots at Jake Paul actually coming in and joining college football, because that would be overshadowing a whole lot of other things in college football. And I do not think that any of the conference commissioners would want that.
Yeah, I just love the idea of a conference room sitting around saying, how can we solve all of the attention issues we have right now with negative media around college football? Somebody in the back corner is like, wait, I got a guy. Jake Paul. Oh, man, that guy doesn't get asked back into the conference room. That guy gets told that it's time for bagels. He leaves. They close the door behind him. The door gets locked. That's the way it goes. We'll keep you updated on the saga of Jake Paul, because, frankly, he's Jake Paul. But in the meantime,
quick question for you, though, before we go, just a fun one for you. If there was a team out there that would be willing to bring in Jake Paul, pay him a couple $1 million of NIL money, which team in college football do you think would be most likely to want Jake Paul?
Oh, that is God. It's
so not Stanford.
I want him. No, it's I kind of want the dichotomy of him going to Clemson, even though it would never happen. That would be my dream scenario, just to get Dabo, who doesn't use the transfer portal, bringing in Jake Paul. That would be a dream, sexy scenario.
Technically not a transfer.
Oh yeah, still not a transfer. I don't know. Do you have a spot? Like, is there a spot that you would love to see him in?
Go Tigers.
No, don't you put that evil on me. Weirdly enough, if Diego Pavia was still at Vanderbilt, I think Diego Pavia would go into Clark Lee's office and say, I need him. I need Jake Paul here. So while Vanderbilt and Stanford are very much so cut from the same cloth, if Diego Pavia was still there, it would be Vanderbilt. Now that he's not, I don't think it would be Vanderbilt. I don't know why Colorado just feels like the place that would fit. You know, Deion Sanders would be down for the attention, would be down for the spotlight, somebody who hasn't done things maybe in the same kind of formula that other college football coaches have done. Colorado would be a good little match.
Maybe he goes to North Carolina where he can steal Jordan from Bill Belichick. Or how about this one? A place that doesn't like any controversy.
Belichick.
Texas A&M. We just sent him to Texas A&M, and now we've gone full circle with the offseason from hell for all of college football for Texas A&M. We'll keep you updated on where Jake Paul heads inevitably, and we'll see how his college football journey goes. All right, more to get to. More Yahoo Sports Daily coming up next right here. Don't go anywhere.
What's the difference between your show and their show?
I'm going to say we have the superior talkers because I'm on the show, and nobody's a better talker than me in all of professional wrestling. That's just a fact. We just feel really special, and we feel very distinct. And I think the biggest reason why, more than anything else, is because when I'm watching All Elite Wrestling, I don't feel like I am watching somebody play a character.
The game will end on this play, a 2-point try. Anthony Garrett sends two. He's going to run. Now he's going to throw. Back of the end zone. Knocked away at the last moment. And it's Quentin Randolph, the wide receiver, playing D-back to win it for Vegas.
Wow. What a call. This is a call. If he puts a little more on it.
This is an ideal situation because in order to stay on the floor and get touches, you're going to have to defend. And DeBonta said this week that he knows his biggest flaw was his off-ball defense at BYU. And I can't wait to see him prove that he can do that at a high level in the NBA on top of everything else that's made him a #1 pick.
Ice, you mentioned John Wall.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be closer to John Wall than it is Kwame Brown.
Let's hope so for DC.
I hope so.
You know, with the stuff that he's got, if he could just throw the ball over the plate, which he has, you know, figured out the last, 2 months, he's going to be pretty much unhittable. I was at that start that he had against the Yankees that night. He came out just electric, just throwing, heater after heater. Actually just challenging, guys in the strike zone. When you throw the ball that hard and you throwing it over the plate and challenging guys, it's going to be hard for guys to pick it up.
Breaking NBA news, 9-year NBA vet Malik Beasley has been indicted on federal gambling charges related to a sports betting scheme, including point shaving and prop bets that per Shams. The government is coordinating Beasley's voluntary surrender this week. This comes a year to the day after the reports on the investigation. We've covered this ad nauseum, but Caroline, that all has to result in something. And today that result is an indictment. Malik Beasley now has to turn himself in and let this legal process continue forward.
Yeah, this is just the latest chapter on what is a massive bombshell of the betting scandal that we got last summer. But I think there are several different ways that we can look at it on a micro level, what this means for Malik Beasley, what this means for the Detroit Pistons, what this might mean for the future of this investigation. But I think we can also zoom out and look at it from a macro level and look at the current landscape of sports. We just have Brendan Sorsby, go through this entire legal battle with the NCAA and with Texas Tech. We had the NFL say, no, we're not going to open up the supplemental draft for you. The CFL has said you are not welcome in our league. Now we have the latest with Malik Beasley in this entire situation. I think with the way that we have seen betting blow up, sports gambling blow up in the United States over the last half of a decade, and we're seeing so many more of these stories come out, I don't think that this is the end. I think we're going to see, we saw the Shohei Ohtani story not too long ago with his translator placing the hundreds of thousands of dollars of bets. I think that we are just getting to the precipice of point shaving, of sports gambling, and the way that athletes are involved in it. I don't think that this is going anywhere. I think this is just the beginning.
This is also just the beginning from the Department of Justice as they start to unseal some of these documents and show you how many charges there are coming. If he were to face maximum penalties, it could be up to 20 years in prison. There's some varying reports on what we're facing here, but it all comes back to point shaving. It comes back to bribery. It comes back to fixing games. The league and all sports leagues are going to keep their eyes on this. And also punishment, I would assume, is going to be something meant to send a message to every other athlete that is considering doing the same. So, again, this is not necessarily a new development to this, as we were aware this would be coming, but we do now have an indictment on federal gambling charges. We will keep you updated with any other news on Malik Beasley. That's not the only NBA news we've got today, too. Shams having a busy day. It's going to be a wild week, but now all of a sudden we're getting reports on Draymond. Draymond opting out. And he's opting out so that he can opt back in. Yes, this is where it always gets confusing. Remember, sometimes by opting out, you can then sign and make the money work. And according to Shams, Draymond opting out as part of his attempt to help the team get more flexibility so that they can pursue LeBron James and free agency and Anthony Davis via a trade. As a result, they'll be forming their own Big Four. So we've got an Unk helping up the Unks to make sure that all the Unks can sit at the grown-up table in the NBA this year. Draymond doing his part to try and bring Steph, Draymond, AD, and LeBron together.
You call it the Big Four. I call it the Old Four, but that is what it is nonetheless. And let's just say T's and P's to Shams over the next couple of weeks because he's about to ingest levels of caffeine the human body has never seen before. 25 hours a day of screen time, if that's even possible. This, to me, is the indication that this is actually real. Like, of course, we heard the reports, but with all of those reports, you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt. That's not, me, poo-pooing the KOC report. That's not me saying that I don't believe it. It's just this time of year, you hear a lot of things. There are a lot of rumors. There are a lot of teams that might be interested in any given free agent or any given team player that might be on the trading block. But this feels like the first chapter of it being really real. This being something that now Draymond Green is saying, I want to be a part of this, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this possible. Again, I do not think that Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry are a championship core. Especially not in this West, especially not when you're not contending, or when you are contending with San Antonio, with Oklahoma City. I don't think Denver is going anywhere. I don't think Minnesota is going anywhere. And Minnesota just doubled down acquiring LaMelo Ball in a trade last week. I don't think that a group of guys that are close to 40, if not past 40, are going to be able to give you what it takes to get past those teams in the West. But what it is fascinating. What it is interesting. And what it is marketability. So if this is the last dance for LeBron James or Draymond Green, if this is the last few years that we see of Steph and AD's careers in the NBA, at least it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, all 6 games that they play together are going to be just phenomenal. You and I talked about it a few months ago, and at the time, one thing that Kerr made clear, as the coach of the Warriors, he made it clear at the podium this year that they understood organizationally they did not have the roster necessary to compete with OKC and San Antonio. He flat out told the fans that to manage their expectations during the season. So now that led to an offseason where we were wondering, would Kerr come back? He does come back. Okay, now what's it mean for the Warriors moving forward? What's their plan? How are they going to move towards becoming the Warriors of old? Well, instead they just became the old Warriors. 36, 38, we're talking about the average age here. You're talking about guys that have played a lot of basketball. And I understand it's going to make them relevant. I'm not sure it's going to make them great. I do think that there is this moment where every time we see dream teams come together, we have to be reminded it takes a second to play together. Maybe this tandem can do the impossible and just immediately come together and figure it out. But I do have to stress here, if it doesn't result in a championship, what was the point? At some point, Golden State is going to have to figure out what the future of Golden State looks like. At some point, you have to have some building block to how you intend to win. Now, that might not be Draymond's problem right now. That's not Steph's problem right now. They want to win right now. But somebody in the organization has to have a 5-year plan. And right now, the only 5-year plan that this tandem can have is retirement parties for everybody along the way. Like, you have a better chance of planning which ice cream cake you want to have at each of their respective retirement parties than you do of raising any jerseys into the rafters for this one. Like, it makes you relevant. It's just not going to make you great. I understand why they're doing it. I understand that this is a great conversation piece for the NBA. But Caroline, to your point, all this is going to do is put this grouping together and make all of us hope that we get to see the best of them. And more than likely, I think by the end of the season, we're just watching a bunch of grumpy old men run up and down the court, not live up to the potential that we have for them.
I think we also have to remember this very well might be the last song for Steve Kerr as well. So the Warriors are probably looking at it like, we don't know how many years of Steph we have left, of great Steph. We don't know how many years of Draymond we have left. I'm looking at a picture of him right now, and I'm seeing a lot of grays. We don't know how many years of Steve Kerr we have left. If anything, it's probably 1 to 2 of really great years, or at least years of basketball that don't hurt to watch. So they might be looking at it and saying, if we're going to go out, we're going to go out swinging. If we're going to go out, we're not going to go out with one toe dipped into the pool of trying to be competitive and running it back with Steph and Draymond, and the other toe dipped into the pool of we have to get younger and we have to build for the future. It's really hard to do both of those things at once. Give great players a good solid swan song and also bring along young players. So they may just look at it and say, we are going all in on at least being fun. We don't know how to contend with Wemby. We're not going to get our Wemby tomorrow. We're not going to get our SGA and Chet tomorrow. But what we do have is a legend in Steph Curry. What we could do is bring in AD. It's a lot easier to acquire him, and hopefully that entices LeBron James. Again, I don't think it's going to work, but it will be fascinating.
It will be fascinating. It will be must-watch TV throughout the course of the next week and throughout the course of the NBA season. We have some breaking NFL news here at Yahoo Sports Daily, and heavy news for so many fans of the Tennessee Titans and fans of Chris Johnson. He went on Good Morning America this morning, talking to Michael Strahan, and revealed to the world that he has been diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. He said that he has no family history of ALS. He has what is called sporadic ALS, so there was no indicator that this would happen. Unfortunately, he noticed some weakness in his right hand, so he and his wife decided to go get it checked out. And now he's found out at the age of 39 that he has the diagnosis of ALS. There is no current known cure. Obviously, this is devastating for his family. It's devastating for him. It's devastating for everybody around him. Caroline, certainly this player, this human being, this man has meant so much to fans of the NFL, so much to fans of the Tennessee Titans. You and I both spent time in Nashville. He is legendary in that city. This is shocking for all of us and certainly heartbreaking for Chris and his family.
This is absolutely devastating. You mentioned the time that we both were able to spend in Nashville, and Chris Johnson is a legend. Chris Johnson is larger than life itself within that organization. So, of course, this kind of diagnosis would be devastating for anyone, but especially for someone that is so beloved, especially for somebody who has such a physical gift and brought so many great memories and great years of successful football to the Tennessee Titans. It's an unfortunate and harrowing reminder that sometimes we put athletes up on a pedestal. Sometimes we think they're otherworldly. Sometimes we think that they are totally and completely invincible. But this is just a really unfortunate reminder that they're just human, that we are all just human. I think it's also a wonderful reminder to go to the doctor if something doesn't feel right, if there is something in your gut that's telling you, I'm not 100% right, just go get it checked out. The best possible scenario is it's nothing and you don't have to worry about it. But unfortunately, it might, unfold something that is deeper that's going on. You can get the help and the treatment that you might need. This is such a terrifying disease, and I wish nothing but the best for him and for his family. It's a really sad day.
His quote here, at first you're in shock, then you have to realize you have two choices. You can give up or you can fight. I choose to fight. It takes tremendous courage to go on national television and talk about something so shocking for he and his family. So we will continue to send our thoughts and prayers to Chris Johnson and his entire family as they are affected by the shocking diagnosis with ALS. More Yahoo Sports Daily coming at you next.
I mean, yeah, everyone loves to bring up all the pressure and tell me about the pressure. And I'm used to it. I've lived like this for quite some time now. For me, I just try to do my best to live in the moment. I wouldn't trade what I do for the world. So this is exactly where I want to be. And I just try to take it head on and enjoy every experience. I got a wonderful team and family behind me. And that's all that really matters.
Understanding that Jacksonville needs a jolt of energy. It is tough to run inside the 5-yard line because the line of scrimmage is so tight in this game. You see the linebacker sneaking right up there, ready to make an impact. And then we see, bam, in the backfield, C.J. Wyndham taken down for a big loss, and now the pressure's on for a third down.
Clay Fields, one of the physical imposers on this defense, does a great job of getting rid of that wide receiver.
I think this is the steal of the draft. Obviously, I was big on him going at number 1 potentially. But when you look at historically, when we look at the draft, the guys who are the best are the ones that outperform. It's the sons of NBA players. Look at this list here. Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Al Horford. These are all all-stars. And I think Carlos Boozer, being the father of Cam, in a weird way, it makes me like Cam Boozer's prospect even more than what he did at Duke, which was outstanding.
From midfield. 3rd and 5. Talora to throw. Talora all day. Talora shuffles left. DeLaura launches, corner end zone, caught!
Just stay home.
Touchdown! Seneca McKee, corner of the end zone, and DeLaura finds him for the touchdown, and now a chance to tie it.
1, 2, 3, 4 guys back there. How are you not fanned out across that area?
The San Jose Sharks have selected 7'1" Alexander Karmanov with the 201st overall pick, tallest player ever drafted in NHL history. Look, this brings us to one of our favorite segments. We like to call it Going Owen. This is where we figure out how many wows we give things that are worthy of a wow. Give us a wow, Caroline.
Wow.
Well,
wow.
So that, I'm telling you, I can't tell the difference between the two. It's a remarkable thing. All right,
it's a
so
gift.
7'1", but also if you've ever been around an NHL locker room, they're on skates. So 7'1" is just the beginning. Like the skates add extra inches. We're talking like 7'4" in skates. What are we doing? How many wows are we wowing this?
I am going Owen on this because this is very much so a wow factor.
Wow.
But I'm also terrified. I'm scared of this man. 7'1", add skates. You're looking at 7'4". This is Wemby on ice. And if anything was more terrifying than Victor Wembanyama is, imagine Victor Wembanyama with a weapon on his feet. And that is what this man is. Look at him. He is standing next to semi-professional hockey players who are 6'1", 6'4", 6'5", 230 pounds. We're talking about behemoths. And he makes them look like little bitty children. This is terrifying in a good way.
Look, yeah, I mean, I'm 5'9.5". Okay, so I'm a fairly average height man.
Don't forget that half.
One of my, of course, no, when you're 5'9", you take the extra half on it. I remember when I was at ESPN initially, and I walked up to my then teammate at the company, Ryan Hollins, who is just over 7 feet tall. And I just walked up to him and like I chose to not raise my eye line just because we were going to have this awkward moment. I realized that I'm a grown man looking at another grown man's nipples. Like that 7 foot is so much taller than the rest of us. I don't know how you make that make sense. So the fact that like 7'1", you put him on skates, 7'4", he'll become he'll become the league's tallest player ever if he plays a single NHL game. Like, if he is even remotely athletic, and I'm not going to pretend to know if he is, but if he is even remotely athletic, I don't know what you do with this. This gets all the Owens. Give me a couple of wows. I need 2 wows. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, one more. Wow. There we go. Wow. Caroline can throw it in. But yeah, we'll take all of the, because this is also an extended, wow. Is you just, wow. This isn't a man. This is a tower on skates. So I'll give it that the wow. All right. Speaking with the NHL draft, it is actually earlier in the draft, Justin Bieber himself announced Gavin McKenna as the #1 overall pick to his favorite team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we go on Owen for Biebs being a part of this moment forever.
I am going Owen on one condition. Does Gavin McKenna have Bieber fever? Is he a Bieber fan? Does he love the Biebs? Because I do feel like some people have some strong opinions about Justin Bieber, right? So if you hate Justin Bieber, then the greatest dream that you have ever dreamt of since you were a kid just got tainted because Justin Bieber announced you. And I feel like you always think about the commissioner saying your name, being the #1 overall pick, but when it's the Biebs, if you're not a Biebs fan, then maybe I'm not going Owen on that.
Yeah, so give me the Owen wow.
Wow.
See, a tone on that a little bit. Like, I'm going to take that this time as a less positive wow. I go like, wow. I mean, that's how I would feel if the moment of my life, like, I'm just not a big Biebs guy. Like, I got respect for Biebs. It's just, I'm just not, I don't have Bieber fever. So for me, if I work my whole life and I finally get this moment, you're like, oh my God, I can't wait. And then they're like, oh, we're going to have somebody introduce you. Oh, this is going to be awesome. Who is it? Justin Bieber. And you're like, wow. Like, I mean, it gets a wow, but I respect everything that Biebs has accomplished. But to your point, if I'm just not a big fan in this moment, then you're walking out, you're like, yay, thank you for the intro. I dreamed of this moment my whole life, being introduced by Justin Bieber. But maybe he's a huge Justin Bieber fan.
Could be. And if he is, then all of a sudden the best moment of your life just got better because Justin Bieber announced your name. Now, not all of a sudden, are you not only a hockey icon, you're a pop culture icon. Your bestie pops with the Beeps. Your girlfriend's getting a lifetime supply of Road Beauty forever and always. Now, all of a sudden, you are a celebrity. So maybe that is going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, we don't know the fandom, but we will find out quickly what it is. We do know our fandom for the Miz. He keeps on mizzing. All right, so the fastest pitch ever thrown by a starter, Jacob Mizorowski, 105.5 miles per hour. That'll get you a ticket on any road in America, but it gets you a big old pitch on this one Saturday. Fastest going Owen ever. Can you give us a fast wow?
Wow.
Well,
wow.
Wow. Does this
Still
go?
not
Do you
as
go
fast
and
as
Owen?
the Miz.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely going Owen. You get an Owen Wilson wow when all of a sudden you make 100 miles an hour feel like a snail's pace. All of a sudden 101 is like cute, but like what about 105 and a half? This is ridiculous. Jacob Mizorowski is breaking my brain because he is not only hitting this velocity every once in a while, he is hitting this velocity on such a consistent pace. So I didn't even think that a 105.5 mile an hour pitch was even possible, but now he's doing it so consistently that he's breaking his record over and over and over and over again. Look at that. That is absolutely insane. So yes, 1000% going Owen. Wow. For the Miz, because it doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon in the literal and figurative sense.
Yeah, I'm not going Owen on this. I'm not going Owen on it because what you did is you just unmanaged your own expectations. Now when somebody's in the ballpark and they see 103.5 miles an hour, they're like, I mean, he's still faster, right? Like that's what inevitably this is going to be Russell. It's Russell Westbrook all over again. Like, oh my God, he averaged a triple double for a season. Then he does it again. It's like, I've seen that. He's throwing 101 now. You're not even paying attention. You're like 101. If he breaks 100, you're like, it's fine. It's fine. This is insane to me when you just think about what he's doing and how fast he is throwing. It's such a phenomenon. It's taken the baseball world by storm. We're all paying attention to it, and it matches everything that you want to see, right? It's somebody young, it's somebody new, and it's something we've never seen before. These are the sort of phenomenons that capture people in a season where, frankly, I think if you look across baseball this year, there's been a lot of really, really bad baseball. There's been a lot of bad teams. There are a lot of bad teams. There's not a lot to root for in some of what's happening so far this baseball season. The Miz has become that one shining light. He is that beacon that everybody, it's a little bit, last year we were obsessed with the big dumper. This year we're going to be obsessed with the Miz all season long. All right, while we're talking about things we're obsessed in, let's go ahead.
Just one last thought on that. I think what makes it even more impressive is not just the speed, it's the control. Like Jacob Mizorowski has a 1.45 ERA throwing 103 plus. See Ben Joyce up there. I've followed Ben Joyce for a long time. Ben Joyce has some control issues. Ben Joyce had north of a 6 ERA last season. So yeah, he can throw heat, but he doesn't have control over it. Jacob Mizorowski has the speed and the control, which is such a rare combination.
We got a big golfing update for you. Norway fans were at the Travelers Championship over the weekend rooting on Victor Hovland, who got out the rare Monday playoff against Scotty Scheffler. He walked away with his 8th career PGA Tour win. We going Owen for it?
Absolutely going Owen for it, because not only winning a PGA Tour is, worthy of going Owen for, it's also worthy of going Owen whenever you've got the whole, rowing the boat on your side, but it's also anytime you get an opportunity to take down Scotty Scheffler in pursuit of a championship. Absolutely, that deserves a wow. So congratulations to Victor Hovland.
Yeah, I'll go Owen for Victor for sure, but I will not go Owen for the Travelers. I'm going to fight for my fellow Connecticutans. I don't know. It's right down the road from here. There were storms. Anyone that didn't see this on Sunday, everybody was told they had to leave the course to go to their cars. Then they got to their cars, and everybody said, all right, we're not going to let anybody back in. They kicked everybody out. They didn't let them back in. Travelers, a very drunken, wild party of golf chaos. So they were very upset. So you know what, Travelers, do better, be better when it comes to the weather. Make sure you have a process and in place. But in the meantime, congratulations to Victor on the win. We'll be back right here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks for watching Daily.